All right, let's jump right into this explainer. You know, we tend to think of history as this neat, tidy progression of events safely locked away in textbooks. But history isn't just made of ink and paper. It's literally written in the dirt beneath our feet. For centuries, archaeologists have dug into the ground expecting to find, pottery, tools, maybe some old coins, but occasionally they uncover something that absolutely forces us to confront the true capacity of human behavior. So, welcome to the explainer, where today we are using the dirt beneath our feet to unearth some of the most chilling truths of human history.
So, what actually happens when archaeologists dig up our darkest nightmares? Well, it tells us that physical evidence left behind in the earth can reveal unbelievable stories of cruelty, fear, and sheer desperation. These aren't just myths or campfire legends, right? These are tangible, physical remnants that defy simple explanation. They give us a direct window into the absolute most extreme circumstances of human survival and society.
Case file number 1. The Ashkelon bathhouse babies, a subterranean secret. So picture this. It's 1988, and a Harvard team is excavating a late Roman bathhouse in Israel. They find this ancient sewer system packed with abnormally dense dirt, and what they uncovered in that drain shifted the entire tone of the excavation.
The debris clogging up that ancient sewer was entirely human bones, specifically the bones of nearly 100 individuals. And the true shocking scale of this hit home when anthropologists realized that every single one of those skeletons belonged to a newborn baby. The delicate little skeletons were completely intact, which suggested that the bodies had just been discarded whole down into the dark sewer shortly after death, and there was zero signs of disease or physical trauma.
To figure out what the heck happened, forensic experts zoomed in on the teeth. When a baby is born, the sheer physical stress of birth leaves this microscopic mark in the tooth enamel. It's called a neonatal line. But here's the thing, that line only forms if the infant survives for a few days outside the womb. The chilling fact here is the absolute absence of those neonatal lines on these teeth. It proves that every single child in that sewer died within hours, maybe even minutes, of being born.
But here is where it gets really wild. The DNA twist. In the Roman world, infanticide was tragically pretty common, and they usually targeted female infants. But when researchers tested the DNA from these specific baby femurs, the overwhelming majority were boys. Why target newborn boys? Well, Roman bathhouses frequently doubled as brothels. If a female worker had a girl, that child could be raised to eventually join the trade. A tragic but very real future income source. A male child, though, that was purely an expense. This just points to this incredibly cold economic pragmatism happening right beneath the feet of Roman citizens.
Moving on to Case 2, the Screaming Royal Mummy, also known as Unknown Man E. Back in 1881, a secret cache of royal mummies was discovered in Egypt. But tucked away among the legendary kings, archaeologists found a plain, totally unmarked cedar coffin holding a mummy officially designated as Unknown Man E.
Now this find left everyone scratching their heads. Normally, a royal mummy got the absolute VIP treatment. Internal organs painstakingly removed, cavities filled with expensive spices, and the body wrapped in the absolute finest white linen. But Unknown Man E? His hands and feet were bound incredibly tight with leather thongs. His organs were never removed. His jaw was left dropping open post-mortem, basically frozen forever in this grotesque, agonizing grimace. And most bizarrely of all, instead of clean linen, he was wrapped tightly in a foul sheepskin. The key here is understanding what sheepskin actually meant to ancient Egyptians. It was considered ritually unclean. By wrapping this man in sheepskin and leaving his coffin completely unnamed, this burial was a deliberate, highly calculated condemnation. It was their symbolic way of ensuring the deceased would remain impure, totally cursed, and erased from eternity. And to the Egyptians, that was a fate infinitely worse than death itself. But you've got to wonder, what could a royal possibly do to deserve that?
The answer totally reads like an ancient true crime thriller. It's the infamous harem conspiracy, which was actually detailed in the ancient judicial papyrus of Turin. In 2012, CT scans and DNA testing definitively proved Unknown Man E was Prince Pentuer, the son of Ramesses III. Basically, his mother, Taya, plotted a coup, and scans of Ramesses III actually show his throat was violently slit. But the coup ultimately failed. The conspirators were caught, and because he had royal blood, Prince Pentuer was forced to take his own life. Scans showed severe compression marks around his neck. He was strangled, wrapped in that cursed sheepskin, and intentionally erased from history.
All right, Case 3, defeating the Polish vampires, or
the cages for the dead. Let's shift over to a 17th century cemetery in northwestern Poland, discovered during a time of immense hardship, wars, and extreme cold. Out of hundreds of normal resting places, excavators uncovered 6 graves that were basically constructed as absolute cages. These skeletons were violently pinned to the earth. Iron sickles were placed directly over their throats or across their abdomens, and heavy stones were actually wedged right into their mouths. Driven by Slavic folklore, these apotropaic burials were a terrifyingly practical defense mechanism. You see, a local vampire, or revenant, was believed to be a bloated corpse that would literally rise from the dirt to choke the living and drink their blood. The logic was, if the corpse tried to sit up, that sickle would just decapitate them, and the stones blocked their throats to prevent them from feeding or speaking curses.
Now, the original assumption was that these suspected monsters were probably outsiders, right? People targeted by extreme xenophobia. But the reality is far more tragic. In 2014, scientists used strontium isotope analysis on their teeth. This basically checks their geological signature, and it proved they matched the local population perfectly. These were their neighbors. During the 17th century, rapid, completely invisible outbreaks of cholera would sweep through, killing people in agonizing ways. With zero knowledge of germ theory, terrified families blamed the first victim for bringing the disease from the grave. It led them to violently pin their own loved ones to the earth out of pure, paralyzing terror.
Case 4 takes us way back. Ice Age, skull cups at Gough's Cave. We are traveling 14,700 years into the past, to Cheddar Gorge in England, exploring a bone-chilling ritual deep within a massive limestone cave.
The forensic evidence here points unequivocally to human butchery. The bones were covered in thousands of these fine, zigzagging cut marks. They were shattered and scraped. They even found human teeth marks on the ribs, showing the flesh was literally chewed off, and the long bones were deliberately split open to extract the calorie-rich marrow. This confirms that these Ice Age humans were eaten by their peers. Now, cannibalism for survival during harsh Ice Age winters is a known thing, but what they did after their meal is what makes this discovery so crazy.
They actually transformed the remaining skulls into drinking vessels. And I want to be clear, this was not some rushed, desperate act of survival. This was a highly skilled, incredibly deliberate artistic process using flint tools. They meticulously removed the face and the base, leaving only the dome of the cranium, and then carefully chipped and smoothed the jagged edges. Anthropologists believe this points to highly complex, sacred funerary rituals. Drinking from the smoothed-out skull of a sibling or an enemy in a damp, freezing cave wasn't just practical. It was likely a profound spiritual act to absorb their strength or assert dominance.
Our final case file, Case 5, the Aztec Skull Tower, the Huitzilopochtli. So when Spanish conquistadors rolled into Tenochtitlan in 1519, they wrote these wild accounts describing towering racks of tens of thousands of human skulls.
For literally centuries, modern historians completely dismissed these diaries as exaggerated propaganda meant to justify the brutal Spanish conquest. That is, until an excavation in 2015 proved the earth held the absolute truth. Near the Temple Mayor in modern Mexico City, archaeologists uncovered this massive cylindrical structure. And it wasn't just a wooden rack. It was a physical tower constructed entirely of human skulls, neatly mortared together with lime and clay, staring eternally outward. The sheer scale of the horror was staggering. They found over 650 skulls mortared together in just the very first phase of the excavation alone. It completely proved the immense magnitude of this monument.
But here's the osteological twist that really changed history again. The long-standing assumption was always that these towers were exclusively built from the skulls of captured young male enemy warriors sacrificed to the war god. But the chilling reality, confirmed by actually analyzing the teeth and bones, a significant portion of them belonged to women and even young children. Entire demographics that were previously thought to be completely exempt from this specific fate were heavily featured as structural bricks in this tower. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at it impartially through the lens of Aztec beliefs. To them, this staggering loss of life wasn't just mindless violence. It was a highly organized religious necessity. They believed the gods literally sacrificed themselves to create the universe, and the sun required human blood to keep moving. Without it, the world would just end. The women and children were often dressed up to represent the gods themselves before their skulls were slid onto those poles. It was a monumental effort to keep the universe alive.
Which brings us to Section 6, the Mirror of Humanity, Lessons of the Dark. When we look at these discoveries, it is super easy to view these ancient people as movie monsters in a horror film. But as we bring all these case files together, we have to confront the unsettling realization that they weren't monsters. They were humans, just like us.
Every single one of these macabre mysteries reflects a very natural human reaction to harsh, unpredictable environments. Whether it's the Roman bathhouse owners driven by cold economic pragmatism, the Egyptian royals dealing with brutal political betrayal, the Polish villagers completely paralyzed by the terror of a microscopic disease, the Ice Age tribes combining survival with sacred ritual, or the Aztec priests fulfilling what they genuinely saw as a cosmic duty. Archaeology doesn't just dig up old bones. It digs up the mirror of human nature, showing us the absolute extremes of our own desperate logic.
And that wraps up our exploration into history's darkest nightmares. But hey, the conversation definitely doesn't stop here. I want to know, which of these 5 archaeological discoveries did you find the most unsettling, and why? Let me know and drop your thoughts in the comment section below.
Please like and subscribe.